Guys, thought I'd do a quick review before I get ready for work. I'm about halfway ready anyway, so I don't think that'll be a problem. So this is a review I really wanted to get to as soon as I can. It's something I promised one of my best friends. This group is her favorite band, and they just put out a new album. Oh crap! Last month. Pretty sure it was last month. Um, anyways, this is a band I've liked for for a few years now. They're called Empires, and basically, gosh, they're a little hard to describe. Not because they're like so out there, but it's kind of the opposite. It's like their approach is kind of more akin to just straight up rock and roll. It's an almost traditional approach. Um, modern modern rock, but they really stick to the roots of traditional rock and roll. Their first album, well, currently to date, they have three full-length albums and one EP. Those are their studio releases. They've, I think, put out at least a couple EPs just to promote new singles for their past two albums. Um, but basically, their first album is called Howl, and it's probably my favorite from them. That album really showcased a really neat variety of music, of rock music. You had some really cool rock and driving guitars, um, and their vocalist. I'll cover more of him as we go along. Don't even get me started on this guy. He's awesome. But they also have with Howl, they had a lot of keyboards too, and just a lot of different dimensions, a lot of different influences. Um, but ever since a couple of years after that album, they released their EP Bang, which saw them sticking to a more consistent sound, kind of a signature sound that they would really continue on with their next album, their previous album, Garage Hymns, and they just really defined more of a more of a like I said, traditional rock and roll type of feel. One thing that Empires is really known for, which I believe is like a real signature thing for them, is that they're so energetic. They don't really need to just do some crazy out there stuff. They really just stick to their guns and just bring it. They just go for it. And that really, that point was definitely proven to me twice over when I saw them live in October 2012. I saw them live with Blue October, and they were both fantastic. Um, Blue October. Gosh, they made me cry. I'm not gonna lie. That was awesome. But Empires, gosh, they just brought it. I don't believe I've seen like a show where there was just so much energy, just so much passion. I guess well, for me it's up for debate because I saw Impending Doom in 2010, that was pure energy. But anyways, so here we've got Empires just kind of forging this just kind of straight rock and roll sound, rock and roll feel, just rock and roll spirit, really. The guys have spirit. Anyways, with Garage Hymns, their 2012 release, I believe is just probably their most down-to-earth albums to date. One of them, I would say it's their most down-to-earth album. You know, they didn't really do anything fancy. It's been a while, but I don't recall like any keyboards in it, and if there were, they were very, very sparse. It was a guitar-driven album, and their singer Sean Van Vliet, cool guy, by the way, a lot of respect for him. His vocals are always at the forefront there. It's like he's in charge and just really driving the whole thing along. Not to discredit anyone, everyone brings it, but Sean just kind of has a way of just taking everything musically that they go with and just setting it in the direction they need to go. Like he's steering the rudder, so to speak. Anyways, this album I'm going to review is called Orphan. It's their latest album, and it took me a while to really get a feel for this album because it's kind of a departure in a way from that traditional sound they went with, especially on Garage Hymns. With this album, I believe they really took that traditional approach and just really took it to another level. And it took me a little bit to warm up to this, because with this, more than any other album, there is a huge emphasis on production on this album. Like you hear a lot of keyboards, which is pretty big contrast to Garage Hymns. But a lot of the keyboards, for the most part, for the whole of the album, basically, are used to create kind of lush soundscapes, really, on kind of beneath their rock sound. And like you've got piano and other stuff like synth strings, string sections, and like I said, it took me a while to warm up to this because with Empires, it's just they've always been raw in their sound, and adding more of a soundscape, more production, it felt to me initially like they kind of traded in that raw sound, that raw energy that I've always known them for, that energy they've always possessed, because it's so gritty and down to earth. It's like adding production, those layers to it. It just almost seemed kind of like an oxymoron, I guess, if that's the best term to go about. I'm not sure, but so I had to warm up to this album, and getting right down to it, 9 minutes and 25 seconds into this video, sorry, but getting right down to it, I have really come to enjoy this album, and I've really come to appreciate it for the fact that Empires really took their sound to another level, like I had said before. My question going into this was, This production is great. The layers are awesome, but did they trade in that down to earth rock the spirit of rock for, studio emphasis? And for the most part, I have to say that answer is no. They really bring it, and they're still really passionate. It's kind of, that bombast is kind of toned down for this album, which I guess makes sense. But honestly, it's just really, it's still really cool. Really cool, really strong album. The songwriting has to be their strongest since their first two studio releases, Howl and Bang. Um, and very mature, basically. Like, it starts out with the song Silverfire, which, I don't know, kind of makes me think of a U2, kind of a Killers, alternative kind of sound. I think the album has a lot of vibe like that. But it's more steady, starting out anyways, but it still possesses a lot of energy. The next tracks, Orphan and Hostage, are really upbeat rock tracks. One of my favorites, though, is the following track, Shadowfaux, which it starts out with kind of a nice piano chord, starts out soft, but it really just gets going with a nice, pretty quick beat. But it gets the blood pumping, and the next track, Honeyblood, really does too. The one track that I kind of isn't altogether bad, but I don't care for is Lifers. It's a really slow ballady track with a lot of keyboards and a lot of production. It's like one track where Sean's vocals are actually fed through effects, kind of a phaser reverb, which because he's such a raw, gritty singer, and that's really a strong point for him. It's not bad. It's catchy, and it's a decent track songwriting wise, but it just doesn't really fit as far as what they're about. I've heard voice effects used for worse things, like Life After Love by Cher, which is one of the worst songs in the world in my opinion. But altogether, after that track, it really finishes well. How Good Does It Feel, the single from this album, which is a really straight up rock track. And Please Don't Tell My Lover, one of my favorites on the album, has a nice bang 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 just real bouncy rock, and like the last tracks on that album just really, they really bring the rock. It's toned down from their previous stuff, but it's songwriting is more than solid. Aside from Lifers, I can't really pick out a track that I really dislike. I mean, some are stronger than others. Some I'm kind of, alright, that's a good song, yeah, and others are like, man, yeah. But altogether, it's a fine album. I like it a lot more than Garage Hymns. It really takes that grit, just that rock and roll spirit, like I've said how many times now, I don't know, but it really takes it to another level. I've been following these guys since they only had one full length and one EP, and it's really cool to hear just how they've matured, and I'm really curious to see where they go next with their sound, and I'm definitely thrilled to see them live again. I'm going to. It's I missed them a few days ago. I missed them last week, and I was just so bummed. But very great album. I recommend anyone watching this to check it out. I give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's just that good. I love it. Alright guys, peace.